Hey, what's up guys? It's Not a Pro Gardener here. Today we're going to be showing you how we set up a drip irrigation system in the in-ground garden. First off, we have already tilled the spots where we want this drip tape to go. We're just going to do this to kind of speed along the video. I don't think there's any reason to waste your guys' time on me using a tiller and you watching me just stand there and slowly grind this dirt up a little bit at a time. And we're going to go ahead and talk about what we're going to be doing. And we are in zone 6B. It's 64 degrees outside, full sun. As you can see, I got my sun gear on, a light shirt, and you're gonna see after a while I got some shorts on. Yeah, it ain't so cold out here anymore, which is pretty awesome, which means it's time to get some stuff in the ground. Now, this video is probably gonna be me putting this drip tape in, but this drip tape mainly we're doing this for is we gotta get these cold season brassicas in the ground. They should have been in the ground 2 weeks ago. So now, we're going to be laying the in-ground garden's irrigation system. We use the drip tape just buried under the surface. It's subsurface drip tape. It's 2 to 3 inches roughly is how deep I would look to get it under. And under that soil, it helps prevent your evaporation of your water. So if you water on top of the dirt, most of that's going to evaporate probably if it's really hot outside. If it's under the soil, it has less chance of evaporation and it's more right there at the root zone, which is where you really need it. Another thing is if you're overhead watering your whole plot, you're kind of encouraging from weeds to grow up in between the rows. And if you have drip tape, you're only watering right where your plants need it in the root zone. Okay, so if we don't overhead water, we're not putting water in between the pathways of our rows, so that also helps lower our weed pressure. So that's another reason why we are doing this and why we use drip tape as well. It is reusable. You can reuse it. There are many different ways to reuse it. I mainly reuse mine in my garage plot up there, and I mainly reuse it in the raised beds. With drip tape, you can also have less water on the foliage of your plants, so that can help with disease issues and maybe even pest issues, stuff like that as well. And another benefit to have drip tape is you can fertilize through it, so you can feed your plants through the irrigation system if you have a fertilizer injector. Now, it's kind of a little investment to get one of those, I understand, but if you're serious about growing market crops or stuff like that, I guarantee that would be a huge game changer for some people. Now, me personally, I have had pretty good luck with doing it that way because it's kind of a set it and forget it thing once you get the hang of it, and you can be watering and feeding your plants while you're doing other things in the garden, you know, harvesting something else, terminating, mowing your own grass. I mean, it's a huge time saver to have these tools. Now, in order to use this fertilizer injector, you need water soluble fertilizer. So that would be fertilizer like Miracle Grow or a flowable powder like that 777 from Nature Safe that I use, or even the Agro Thrive, or some Batten, let's see, or you could use some fertilizer from like Liquifish, stuff like that, you know, that you can feed through the irrigation system. Now, if you have experience with drip tape, I have tried crowding plants like broccoli. I planted on every foot a broccoli plant in a 30-foot row. So I had 30 broccoli plants, and I did 2 rows side by side, 2 foot apart, which is crowding plants together. And I have successfully grown broccoli like that. So in my experience, if you feed them very well, if you got double the plants, you gotta meet the needs for double the plants. You know what I mean? So in my experience, I have had pretty good luck with doing that, but this year I'm going to try things a little bit differently and not crowd some things and, you know, normally crowd some things like I have before. Like, for instance, this year my rows are a little farther apart because I'm not putting my onions in this plot this year. This year I'm putting the onions in the raised bed, so it gave me some more room in here to spread things out a little bit, give me more room to harvest, give me more room to go through and cultivate as well. All right, so what I'm gonna need is some mainline tubing. I believe this tubing is 5/8 tubing, along with the drip tape I believe is 5/8. I'm not quite for sure on that, but there's some people like Hoss Tools that have kits you can buy. When I first started out, I got one of their kits, and that kind of got me started into an entry level of drip irrigation for gardens and, you know, raised bed irrigation. I started that a little bit before in-ground irrigation, but it's kind of, you need to just dip your toe in and see where it gets you, and you'll learn on the way as well. What you're gonna need is a filter regulator combo to regulate the pressure from your well down to the pressure it needs for the fittings, so you don't blow the fittings apart, stuff like that. Now you're going to need some row starts and some row ends for the drip tape so you can connect them to the main line and terminate the ends so they don't just blow water out the other side. Another thing you'll probably need for a basic setup will be some figure 8s, or there are end plugs that plug that main line on the end so you can flush them or keep the water from going out, like I said. You're also going to need a garden hose. The garden hose attaches to this setup, the filter regulator combo. It attaches to that, and it's not too bad. You'll see me hook it up here after a while. So I'm just going to kind of show you an overview of the basics of what my in-ground garden plot's going to look like, if you want to check that out. And that's how I map it out. Every line that I write on is a drip tape line, and I put the spacing in between them as well. That way I kind of have a record of it. Now I did have to expand some of these rows a little bit, like for my summer squash bush beans, I made those 3 foot apart because I had extra room. And I like to figure these things as tight as I can, the rows in between, and then when I get out here and I map it out, I see what I got left over, and that's how I kind of work on the fly with the row spacing, as I make everything just a little bit bigger to even the plot out. And that's been working pretty well so far, and that's just how we do it. So what we're going to do today is we're going to put the furrow maker on the wheel hoe, and we'll come through, make the furrows. And this time I'm not going to be putting a pre-plant fertilizer down. I'm going to inject a pre-plant fertilizer down. It's going to save me some time and a little bit of headache because I do not have any granular stuff, but all I have is that 777 that I could use, and I can just inject that in there, and just that will be my pre-plant fertilizer. So that's what I'm going to do this time, and it's going to save me a little work. So what we're going to do is we're going to take you out here, show you what we're going to do with this furrow maker, and then we're going to take you along and show you how we lay the main line and the drip lines, and that won't be too bad. So let's go ahead and get to it, and I'll show you how we do it. Let's go. All right, everybody, so we got our main line set. Now I'm just going to take this punch, put it right in the middle of these furrows that I made, and I'm just going to punch me a hole right where I want this row start to be. One of these guys. Don't necessarily have to be the one that shuts off, but I like getting the ones that shut off so I can fertilize individual crops with my irrigation system. So that just snaps in there like that. This is a row end, and we're going to go down there. We're going to pull our drip tape on this spool here down the furrow under here so it keeps it weighed down, and we're going to go down there and put this stuff down there. Then we're going to hook it up here, and then we're going to do the rest of them, and we're also going to plug some holes along this main line from last year because I reused it. So let's go ahead and get this stuff going. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to cut this in between these emitters. It's a foot spacing in between these emitters, and I'm just going to kind of eyeball it, and you want to cut it square as you possibly can. Loosen this thing up. Try to open this drip tape up. And then you just got to wiggle it on a little bit until it goes all the way on. And you just tighten it up and then give it a little jig, make sure it's on there. All right, so we got the drip tape laid and we checked for leaks. So we turned it on, let it sit for a couple minutes and made sure there was no leaks, fixed any leaks because we did reuse some drip tape. Now we got a couple things we need to do before we cover this up. We need to get our toolbar switched over. We'll show you that in a minute. And then we need to turn the water on before we cover it up. When you don't use the drip tape layer, it doesn't keep the tension on your drip tape. So if you do try to cover it up without it on, it kind of jumbles up a little bit in some spots. So you need to have it on when you do this. So let's get to it. Buddy, so we got it all zipped up. Let's turn around and show you what we got. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is Not a Pro Gardener here, showing you how we set up our drip tape. And as you can see, some of them rows were a little crooked. And since I didn't till this whole plot, I only tilled like strips, if you could see that or if I explained that already, but I only tilled strips. And as you can see, this is not tilled here. So as you can see, it's only been tilled where the rows are. So I think it was giving me some trouble with my my plow set. I think it was giving me some trouble with my plow set on the wheel hoe here. It was kind of catching that dirt that wasn't tilled. So I think if I'd have tilled the whole plot, my rows would have been a lot straighter, because that was giving me a little hiccup every once in a while. And then also trying to record, it was kind of giving me some hiccups too while I was zipping them up. But I gotta say, so far the most satisfying tools to use on the toolbar for this EOX has been the furrow maker or the hillers, these plow sets that we have for this. It's very satisfying to not have to push the wheel hoe and it just zips it up or plows that hole for me, or plows that furrow out for me. All right, everybody, so this is Not a Pro Gardener here. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you like the video, like the video. That helps the channel out a lot, and it helps the algorithm out on YouTube and helps push this video for more viewers. So if you don't mind, give me a like. I would appreciate it greatly. And don't forget to ring that bell to get notified every time I come out with a new video. The next video is going to be us transplanting our brassicas, which will be pretty much everything I told you except for the warm season stuff. So hopefully we get a chance to do that. And hopefully we'll see the Easter Bunny here soon. So everybody have a great holiday, and this is Not a Pro Gardener.